welcome back to our channel Low Point. Myself Anisha Babu. Do you know that whenever we buy a product or service, be it from the shop or via the online mode, that you are protected as a consumer by the legal system? Not many are aware about this. Hence, today we are discussing on consumer rights in India. We have Ms. Praseena Elizabeth Joseph, Advocate on Record, Supreme Court of India, to shed light on this topic. So let's watch.
Hi friends. Earlier, in commercial transactions, the rule was let the buyer beware. It was assumed that it is the buyer's responsibility to check and verify whether the good or the product that he is buying is proper or not. The buyers be cautious and careful while choosing their product from the market. The best method for protecting consumers was placed on free competition by flooding the market with so many choices that the consumer is spoiled for choices satisfying consumer wants. Even in the mid-19th century, when this philosophy was dominant, the consumer was left without the protection of law. Around 1932, there was a landmark case, Donnock versus Stevenson, which was decided by House of Lords. In that case, Mrs. Donnock was drinking a bottle of ginger beer in a cafe. Unknown to her or anybody else, a decomposed snail was inside the bottle. She fell ill and she subsequently sued the ginger beer manufacturer, Mr. Stevenson. The House of Lords held that the manufacturer owed a duty of care to the ultimate consumers and directed compensation to be paid by Mr. Stevenson to Mrs. Donnock. Then onwards, the concept buyer beware to an extent transformed into the concept let the seller beware, leading to consumer sovereignty, or as we usually say, consumer is king. In India, to protect the consumer from exploitation and to save them from adulterated or substandard goods, a codified law, Consumer Protection Act 1986, was passed. Recently, this old Act of 1986 was replaced with New Consumer Protection Act 2019. So today, we are going to discuss who is a consumer and what are his rights under the Consumer Protection Act 2019. To begin with, we often see TV advertisements by celebrities like Akshay Kumar for Harpic, Shah Rukh Khan for Fair and Handsome, Kareena Kapoor for Lex, and so on. Under this new Act of 2019, celebrities are made liable for false or misleading advertisements. So, celebrities now be careful in choosing their advertisements. Consumer means anyone who buys a product or hires or avails any service for a price. The price for the product or the service may have been paid or it might be under installment. So, it is clear that the product is not bought for free. That means if Colgate is selling a toothpaste and toothbrush for free, we cannot complain against the toothbrush which is given for free. Nowadays, we buy a product through online platforms like Flipkart, Amazon, Myntra, etc. and avail services like online coaching classes, ticket booking, etc. Under this new Act of 2019, the offline and online transactions are also covered. It's important to note here that there is an exception to this, that if a person buys the product for resale or for any commercial purpose, then he cannot be called as a consumer under the Consumer Protection Act 2019. Now we will see consumer rights provided under the Act. Section 2, Clause 9 deals with consumer rights. There are in total 6 consumer rights. The first among them is right to safety. That means right to be protected against marketing of goods, products or services which are hazardous to life and property. For example, you can see in a cigarette packet it is written that it is injurious to health. That way, it is cautioning the consumer that the consumption of this cigarette is injurious to health. In spite of the same, if you buy the product, it is bought under your risk. Secondly, the right to be informed about the quality, quantity, purity, standard, price, etc. This is to protect the consumer from unfair trade practice. Like for example, when you buy a food item or a similar product, it is printed on the product, its weight, date of manufacturing, use before date, place of manufacturing, ingredients used, etc. Third one is right to choose. That means access to a variety of goods, products or services at competitive price. For example, if you are going to buy a fan or a fridge or a paste or a soap, it is the duty of the seller to show different brands at different prices. The fourth right is right to be heard. If a consumer is having a complaint against a defective good, deficiency in service or unfair trade practice, the consumer can personally appear in court and present his case without a lawyer. It is his choice if he wants to appoint a lawyer. Consumer Protection Act is a beneficial legislation that consumer interest will receive due consideration at appropriate forum. If you find a defective good like leakage, damage in a product or deficiency in service, for example, your car is given for servicing and it has not been serviced properly, or you booked through a travel agency and they promised a 5-star stay but instead they provided a cheap hotel accommodation, or unfair trade practice if a product is sold after its expiry period, or a second-hand good is sold as a new one, or if the particular product is not able to provide the claimed benefit, or it is not of a standard product, then you can file consumer complaint. Now the fifth right is right to seek redressal before appropriate forum. Redressal means dispute resolution. If you have a complaint against any defective good, deficiency in service or unfair trade practice, you can approach Consumer Commission. There are hierarchy of redressal forum. For each district, there is District Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission. In each state, there is State Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission. And for the entire nation, there is one National Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission and Supreme Court of India. And finally, the sixth right is right to consumer awareness. The consumer needs to be educated about his rights. Government has taken initiative by launching Consumer Affairs Department. Their main duty is to educate the public and provide awareness of the consumer rights. As part of this scheme, you may have noticed in TV advertisements and posters in railway station, bus stops and other areas captioning Jago, Grahak, Jago. So these are the consumer rights under Consumer Protection Act 2019. Thank you.
Friends, thank you for watching. Stay tuned.